So after the fall equinox for the northern hemisphere and the spring equinox for the southern hemisphere and the passage through gateway number 46, serendipity, pushing upward into heaven, expanding, now we go into the whole spleen center in the human design chart. All next 7 gateways, one after the other, are all in the spleen center. The spleen center looking to do with our sense of health and well-being, our immune system, our lymph system, and ultimately the fear of survival, right? That's perhaps the greatest thing about it, is the where we get frozen in fear. Are we going to survive? And of course, part of being here, life on planet Earth, sooner or later things give out and we die and we pass away. But each one of the 7 gateways that we're going to look at in this next sequence has to do with our sense of health and well-being and our sense of fear or healthiness. And the fear part of it is basically looking to see, am I up to speed in my life? Am I looking out for myself in life? Or are there things that are going to overwhelm me? And of course, the ultimate fear, the fear of death. But we're going to look at the 18th gateway in the first place. And that is this one coming up here. And it's the gateway I call improving. Now, in traditional I Ching, it's called work on what has been spoiled by the parents, indicating this is a gateway of conditioning, in that the earliest influences in our life are parents and then teachers and priests and all kinds of people who tell us their rule system for life, basically. You've got to do this, got to do that, this is how life works. And we get given all kinds of concepts of how we're supposed to behave. And the gateway, I choose to call it improving, and that is a very kind of light description of it in a way, because I also call this gateway the go to hell gateway. Anyone I've ever come across with gate 18 in their charts has to come to a realization at some point in their life that pretty much everything they've ever been told about life is questionable, to put it mildly. And a lot of it's just plain nonsense. And probably all of it doesn't really apply to the individual. So the great thing to realize about 18 is it's part of the collective circuitry, it's part of the logic circuitry, and logic is always looking for an improved future. But one has to be really aware of the fact that a lot of the information that we're given in life, like the ground rules for life, you'll only get ahead if you do this, that, and the other. They're very questionable, to put it mildly. So I call the 18 the go to hell gate. And at some point in life, you realize I'm in hell. Nothing's working according to my perception of life, but I'm bombarded by all this information I've been given from other sources. And the great thing about the 18 is once you realize I'm in hell, what are you going to do about it? You're going to stay there? Are you going to be subject to everybody else's input? Or are you going to start finding a way out? And there's the great thing, the 18 gateway is all about getting out of hell and finding yourself in your own life on your own terms and becoming a sovereign being. That is somebody who is totally in touch with their own life, their own nature, and they've got to get out of hell card now. And with that ability, they now have the means to assist other people in getting out of hell too. And let's just face it, there's not a single person on this planet that hasn't been conditioned one way or another. And the 18th gateway is all about, yes, this is the conditioning. There are 6 lines of levels of it, and all kinds of facets around conditioning. But the great thing is to realize we came here to be ourselves. That's the bottom line. Whatever rules and regulations and concepts and ideas there might be. So the 18 is really a tipping point in all of that. How are we looking out for ourselves? The fear of the 18 is the fear that everybody knows better than I do. And, I'll just give my authority away to everybody else. They must have the right idea, and I don't. So there's the challenge as we go into the 18th gateway. We see in the wheel, it's just above the eastern horizon there. we've gone past gate 46, which kind of opened up this section of all these spleen gateways, all these gateways that have to do with our health and well-being. And the first thing in terms of health and well-being is you've got to be able to trust in yourself. Whatever the rules might be, whatever we're being told about things, we have to kind of realize, I've got to be true to my own nature. The potential on the other end of the channel, right up in the top of the chart there, or in the wheel, is the gateway number 58, the gateway of joy. I call it the vital spark. The vital spark is basically, why bother doing something if you don't have any sense of joy about it? And the whole channel, this channel of judgment, is just recognizing some of the systems, many of the systems we've been given in this lifetime, they have to be improved. They have to keep up with the times. And so the 18 is basically saying, okay, so far this system's not working for us. Let's see if we can tweak it. The most important thing to realize about this is we're talking about systems here. We're not talking about individuality. And there can be a great confusion in terms of, I got the 18, I'm thoroughly conditioned. Yeah, the conditioning comes through putting trust in systems that don't really work for you as an individual. And so the possibility is of seeing, okay, I'm stuck with this thing. I'm in hell. I'm living my life according to other people's principles. I have to get out, and I have to start finding my own sovereign nature. So the 1858 is part of the stream we call mastery. And mastery is basically becoming so adept at playing or working within systems that you don't have to stop and think about it. It just becomes a natural quality to you. And you'll see there are so many systems in the world. We're talking particularly martial arts. We're talking about skills in legal professions, counseling, all kinds of different things where always the system, the processes we go through can be improved. There is one, that is absolutely an oxymoron, which is educational system, because you can't educate somebody through a system, but nevertheless, that is how the world has been set up. Education happens through drawing out an individual's great abilities. And so we'll see, in actual fact, education system is a programming, conditioning setup. Until the student realizes, hey, I've got to work this stuff out for myself. I've got to do this on my terms. Anyway, moving on. Let's have a look, see what the context of this gateway. Improving, right? Finding remedy. Something's not working right. It needs to be improved. It needs to be brought up to speed. It's not a personal thing. It's not like, oh, I am a screw up. It's just basically the systems I'm using don't work very well. They need to be improved. Work on what has been spoiled. That is the traditional Chinese translation. All traditions, dictates, and customs need constant review to find if they are presently wholesome and healthy. That's the whole thing with the 18 gateways, bringing things up to speed, bringing the systems into a new alignment to the needs of the moment. And we have to watch in the world at the moment, so many systems are falling apart. They're just not working anymore. Things that have been set in place perhaps for hundreds of years, they're all coming unglued, undone at the seams. And so the 18th gateway is a very, very potent gateway at this moment in time as we bring things up into a new alignment in the world. And that's the great thing. We either realign or we stay in the conditioning. We stay in the conditioning, we're stuck in dogma. And we're stuck in dogma, nothing is going to move. And so the 18 gives us that possibility. Are we going to stay in hell, or are we going to make the move out of it? Dispassionately reevaluating unbalanced systems, interactions, practices, and procedures aims humanity to grow towards a flourishing future. Right? Dispassionately reevaluating, bringing things up to speed, bringing things into present tense. And that is one of the most important things to realize about any of the gateways in the spleen center. It's all about present tense. And so in these next 7 gateways we're going to go through, it's all about being present, alert. And the 18 is a gateway that relates very much to our sense of taste. So we can say we put something in our mouth and the instant sensation on our tongue is it tastes. I mean, they'll say there are 5 different basic tastes to have. but instantly we know whether something tastes right for us or not. We also apply the word taste to our environment, paint colors, furnishings, spaces, arrangements, systems. And so the 18th gateway has basically got this ability to instantly weigh up a situation, to look in the present moment, click. Is this a harmonious environment? Is it tasteful? So we look at people and we see, is this person dressed in a tasteful way? It's not about the person, it's just about the outfit they're wearing. Does it work for them? Is it appropriate in this environment? And so many things can lead from our sense of taste, both things that we put in our mouth and get that taste, or evaluating the environment around us right away. And so I say, a lot of the rules and things we've been told, we can only have a square box here, where in actual fact we notice everything in nature has curves to it. And so just adjusting our sense of perspective around things that we've been told, well, it can only be like this, and it cannot take on any other shape or form. So let's have a look through the lines. And we have these 6 lines. We're going to start off with the first line, and the first line has everything to do with the foundation for the hexagram. And this first line, we call it being paternalistic. All right, so we see the word paternalistic has a lot to do with male traditions. And we know in the world at the moment, there is really a massive imbalance of the male patriarchal situations, being paternalistic. The difficulties involved in updating male traditions. And we don't have to look very far to see, the 80 cents on a dollar that women make in terms of working situations as an accepted quality, particularly here in America. And to see there has to be this balance, there has to be this equalization. And first line is just saying, look, there's difficulties involved in updating male traditions. The woman, when she gets married, she takes on the husband's name, and the kids all have the father's name. And there's so many different traditions like that. And slowly, we have to see part of the hell that we engage with on this planet is the patriarchal traditions, armies, war, fighting, domestic violence. Most of these things relate to the male paternalistic sense of right. And so the first line here says, okay, you want to improve things in life, let's have a look at this. Let's see if we can't bring about a balance here. Patriarchal traditions are rooted in his story, history, and you examine them to find present relevance. And that's the foundation of the 18th gateway. Am I in hell, or is there a way out here? How do I get out? How do I bring balance? How do I bring love into the world? The Earth's presence here, you give the endurance to gradually bring practical modifications to ancient judgments. I mean, let's face it, you don't have to even open a history book to realize the nature of patriarchal societies. And it's instilled in all of us on some level that the man has the last say, that the man gets to do everything. In actual fact, there has to be a sense of proportion and balance. But here it's saying the endurance to gradually bring practical modifications. And that's how it is, step by step by step. This is, after all, the logical process about just lining things up step by step. One step follows another into bringing about improvement in the world, into bringing about that sense of mastery. Right? All of us would love to be in a state of mastery in this lifetime, that we engage in something that just brings us that pure sense of satisfaction in what we do. Jupiter here, by expounding life from traditional views, you'll remain stuck in someone else's past. Right? So tradition, let's just face it, a lot of traditions are kind of being pushed aside these days. There's a whole very conservative movement in the world. We're not going to move. We're not going to change anything. And in America, the Supreme Court says, no, the court, the government is going to rule women's bodies in terms of abortion. And so we'll just see, somehow or other, there has to be this balance that's brought about in a very, very much more sensitive way. We cannot stick with traditional points of view. The second line, a puzzle for many, many people. It took me ages to work out what this line was all about. And it's like the first line is very much about the male side of things. The second line has a lot to do with the feminine side of things. And I came to the conclusion the real name for this line is honoring the goddess. Instilled fears involving the power of the feminine. And again, any woman will know the displacement that's taken place, not just in these days, but in times past, of women that had any kind of semblance of power was squashed, or even in the worst of cases, burned at the stake for having a wisdom that was natural to them. And so the second line with the 18th gateway, getting out of hell, is honoring the goddess, honoring the feminine principle. I mean, this is, after all, a Mother Earth, Mother Moon, Mother Venus. The whole neighborhood is feminine. And so the second line in its really natural form is just to say, let's just really honor Mother Nature here. The mother planet, mother that nurtures us. So it wouldn't be possible to live if we didn't have this planet to live on. Any tendency to suppress the feminine side of your nature requires great inner watchfulness. If you studied biology on any level or looked into the physiology, you will know that we're half male, half female. It's just there's a chromosome or two that kind of makes the difference. And for some people, even that doesn't really matter, doesn't seem to matter anymore in terms of people finding a new arena of gender. So here it is, a tendency to suppress the feminine side, right? Well, the tradition is, the man has the last say, he's always the one in charge. And the woman just has to stay behind the stove and cook and make babies. And that whole attitude, no, we're honoring the goddess here. And that brings about this kind of natural quality, brings us out of a place of denial. Here with Pluto, you have the potential to transform your inherited fears through diligence and alertness. Almost all men have this concern about the power of the feminine. And it's always been said, oh, the women are the weaker sex. And actual fact, it's not the case. Women's lifespans go longer. Many of their abilities to handle excruciating pain that men can't even begin to understand. There's all kinds of ways in which the feminine intelligence and the feminine physiology is so much more powerful than the male one. It's just on a physical strength basis, not the case. The moon's placement here is sensitive to those who instilled your fears. You're reluctant to hurt their feelings. Well, I've always been told like this, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings by going against it. And, part of getting out of hell is to become a sovereign being and to realize, yes, I see how I've been conditioned. I've seen all these rules and concepts I've been offered and given, and they really don't match with my approach to life at all. The third line always has this kind of breakout quality, this pioneering quality of going into different things. And the line is called being impetuous. It's got to break with this thing. I can't go along with everything I've been told. I got to find a way out. I got to find something different. So driven to break with the past and get to the future now. So when you get to the third line, you'll find there's a little bit of a hurry going on. I got to get out of hell right now. I'm not going to stay there anymore. I'm not going to be subject to this concept that everybody knows better than I do. The only person who can know about your life is you. You're the one having it. And that's the most important thing to realize of all. This is your life. This is it. This is your movie, your universe. Yes, there's a lot of programming, a lot of other people's inputs and ideas and stuff. So examining what is no longer needed in your life gives you the possibility to be free of it. And that's the thing, is like, do you have the courage to start exploring life on your own terms? And that's exactly what the 18 is all about, is step by step, peeling the onion, coming out of the state of I'm subject to everybody else's input and everybody else's rule systems. The Neptunian side here, highly critical of your old conditioning, you find imaginative ways to redress it. And we can see, there's a great artistic tendency here to just break out of any kind of concept. The danger always is to be in a state of reaction rather than actually finding something that is relevant and in attunement with your own life. But nevertheless, the third line will try anything to break out. Jupiter here, any attempts to bypass or discount your conditioning eventually brings you remorse. And that's the quality of the 18th gateway, is just realizing, yeah, I'm in hell. I've allowed myself to be in hell. I've just got pushed in there and it doesn't feel right. I've got to find my way out of it. And there it is, it's a personal effort to rearrange the systems and the beliefs and the information and the programming that we've all been given. Right? The only right way is your way, and that's it. So type and authority helps you find, how do I bring about this improvement in my life? How do I keep on making my day fresh, making my life fresh, keep stepping into new horizons? So the great thing is to realize, having given, for those of us that have the 18 in their design, it's just, this is to realize this is a life where there has to be a sense of growth going on. There has to be the sense of, okay, I am going to make this life on my own terms here. And type and authority guides you into how to make the steps that are needed to get out of those places that really don't work for you, where you're giving your power away to other people, other systems, other concepts, other ways of life that have nothing to do with you. The fourth line gathers people together, gathers us into, we are all in this together. And here the fourth line says, allowing things to be, attempting to cure symptoms and not causes. Very easily done. Oh, I'll just, fix something a little bit, rather than actually go into it and find out, where did this all come from? Where did I give all my power away? Going to the heart of problematic issues, you see if you actually attract them. Right? There's that thing. Well, as long as I follow somebody else's path, sure enough, I'm going to run into things that really don't relate to me at all. And here is a call to meditate. I could say this pretty much about any hexagram and any gateway in the human design. They're all a call to meditate and to really have a look, see what is this all about? How does this really relate to me? Fixating on curing your apparent inabilities or finding freedom in your own clarity. What a relief to find our own clarity. A lot of times we look around the world to congratulate us. Oh, you did so great. Oh, get a prize here. Oh, you won a medal there. And the bottom line to that is, yes, it's wonderful to have these things. Thank you for sharing. I still have to stay in my own integrity here. Yes, these are symbols of things that are showing a sign of progression in my life. But I have to be really careful. Is this a progression according to everybody else's ideas of what life's supposed to be? Or am I being true to myself in all of this? Mental anxiety, here's the Mercury input. Mental anxiety and procrastination are brought on when you indulge others' criticism. There's the opposite of being rewarded for something. Oh, you really screwed up. Oh, what a mess that is. And taking it personally rather than saying, oh, well, the system I use to go about this needs a modification. If I do something like this again, I'll bring it up to speed. I'll make sure it really works. Right? I'll bring about that improvement. The fifth line, self-correcting. And fifth lines always have that potential to lead, to guide, to oversee, to manage things, but they have to be practical. There has to be a practical approach to this. Getting out of hell requires quite some effort, quite some awareness, an integrity to resolve conditioning through being alert. And there it is. It's an integrity, an inner integrity. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to work this one out, whatever it takes. I'm going to look at this conditioning. I'm going to look at these things in my life that don't resonate with me. And I'm going to see, where's the modification? What are the things in my life that do resonate with me? Because that's the important thing. That's where I find my truth. That's where I find my authority, my sovereign nature. Saturn gives it any improvements are sustained through relationships that relax your fears of unworthiness. It's again about finding right company here. It's not about, oh, I'm an eternal sinner, I'm screwed up. A lot of us have been persuaded that, born in sin, live in sin, die in sin. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, that's somebody else's mantra that really doesn't assist anybody at all. The word sin means to forget. We forget why we came here when you trace it right back to its origin. The Uranus input here, relating to others' ways that do not resolve conditioning, you cause further imbalance. Right? You've ever been to a workshop or a training or somewhere or other where the person was so, this is how you do it, this is how it gets done, and this is going to solve all your problems. And you kind of get into it and say, yeah, it looks pretty good, and yeah, well, maybe not so much. And then you find at the end of it, no, this doesn't resolve anything for me at all. It's just more stuffing, more information, more potential to feel guilty that I'm not going about life in the right way. So, yeah, we all have to be really careful about that. What I say about this fifth line is we all have opportunities in our lives to self-correct. And the fifth line really shows how that can take place. That anywhere in our life where we've tended to be reactive or we're stuck in somebody else's dogma or way of doing things in life, and then out of life, something approaches us, some interaction with somebody causes a mirror and effect of whatever that conditioning was. In that moment, we can self-correct. We can see, oh, I've got this habit of always embracing this thing the same old way, and it never resolves itself. However, if I shift my perspective, if I take away the personal sense of failure or conditioning, and I start seeing what is actually needed in this moment right here now, and all of a sudden, whatever that conditioning was is gone, and you never need to go back to it. So the fifth line has that potential. By the time we get to the sixth line, this is a line called being the Buddha, going beyond all conditioning. If you know the Buddha's story, he went through it. He had a life of luxury and relaxation for many years. And then around his Saturn return, around the age 28, 29, 30, all of a sudden he realized there's more to be seen here. There's a lot of things I haven't realized. And he goes on a 7-year pilgrimage, tries out everything. Not a comfortable life story at all. Does all the initiations, all the hardships, all the progressions through things that he's told to do. Try this, try that, try the other. And in the end, he gives up. And that is the moment where the resolution comes. He goes beyond all conditioning. He goes out of anything he'd ever been told as somebody else's dogma or practice or whatever. And so the 18 in the end requires something of a dedication to go through hell, to go through understanding all of what we've been told is questionable, and we have to find our own truth. You dedicate yourself to universal concerns and spiritual development for all beings. And you'll find if you've got the 18.6 in your design somewhere or other, you'll know this about yourself. There's a part of you that can see the way through, out of conditioning, out of hell, into reality. Mars here, you have the ability and drive to expound universal truths wherever you are. And that's the beautiful thing about the 18. There's a baseline of it, the paternalistic point of view, where the man is always right, and then there's the flying part of it, where we see there's a way through, there's a way out, by examining all the conditioning and finding out, okay, within all of this, what's my truth? And here, the moon's placement, you exude the reassurance to reveal that there is no insurmountable problems to life. That is a huge understanding of things. We're here for the 410, or maybe it's 420 these days. I don't know. Life is expanding. We have great opportunity in this time. And it's just to see this 18th gateway reminds us that a lot of what we've been told, a lot of why we're towing the line, it's somebody else's story. We're giving our power away unnecessarily into other people's traditions and concepts and ideas of things. And the 18 gives us that reminder. Find your own truth. That's the bottom line.